This is the debut episode of the Snarketing podcast, for marketers by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Wurst.
Wow, hello, and welcome to the Snarketing podcast. Hello, co-host Val.
Hello, Matt.
Well, that was exciting. We actually have an official announcer? That's crazy. His name is Al.
We love Al.
Not to be confused with Albert, or in some cases AI, which also often is written as Al. So I'm Matt Wurst.
I'm Valerie Vespa.
And we are your co-hosts for the Snarketing podcast. Welcome to our debut episode. We're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. We're going to tell you a little bit about what to expect. We've got an incredible interview. And I think, well, let's first dig into who we are.
That's a great idea.
So, Valerie, who are you?
Well, the first word that came to my mind is that I'm a mother, so I will say that. I'm a mother, and I had been working in media for a very long time. And my focus as of late is out of home, which is a really interesting space. I work at Outfront Media. I'm VP of brand partnerships there. And I thought it would be really terrific to talk to these people with you.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. And we're going to have some great guests, people we know, some people we don't know. But you and I are in marketing. We're going to talk to marketers, right? So I'm also this experienced marketing executive, as I make air quotes,
Agreed.
but more so on the creative side, right? Balancing brand strategy and culture creation. I spent many years at a digital agency called 360i, and then built my own agency called Revelation, which was acquired by Jellyfish. So I can admit that I don't really have out-of-home knowledge or experience.
You've been featured on Out of Home.
Yes, that is true. Although if I was the strategist or creative on that campaign, I can promise you that I would not have been the face to end up on that large out-of-home experience. So let me ask you this. Was marketing something that you thought that you would establish a career in, or is this what you wanted to do when you grew up?
Not in the slightest.
Yeah, no, me neither.
And I honestly had really no idea about this industry until I came to New York and started out in finance. So I was completely on a different path. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has a clue growing up. I studied political science, got into professional sports afterwards. I wanted to be a sports agent, but I wasn't necessarily prepared to go to law school, despite my mother's best intentions. I worked at the NBA for a number of years, helping to build their digital team. That was where I first really began to sit at that intersection of creative content journalism, but really marketing, PR, brand building, and consumer and fan engagement.
I mean, I could kind of see that.
Yeah, look, and sitting courtside watching NBA players is amazing.
Were you wiping up the sweat of the players?
No, but I will tell you that is a dangerous job. They have to get on and off the court very, very quickly before a fast break comes steamrolling down. Or imagine LeBron James, 6'8", 200 plus pounds, coming at you and you've got a little mop in your hand. Not where I'd want to be.
It's terrifying. It freaks me out.
But I wasn't entirely sure that I would be a lifer at the NBA. But now I'm in this exciting role as of the last month or so, building out the U.S. team for a great British founded agency called Connects.
I'm very excited for you.
It started as an influencer creator partner, but now, yes, still empowering creators, but really connecting brands with audiences and communities through content. In social, it could be above the line, through the line.
Yes.
But our core focus is building these real relationships online and offline that are brand building, conversion focused, and turning these relationships that I mentioned into long-lasting, successful campaigns into communities for hundreds of leading global brands. But I'm excited to be talking with you and with others about the topics du jour, but do so in a way that kind of takes the piss, if you will, nod to my British colleagues. But it takes some of the serious things that we tend to overcomplicate and overthink in our industry and have some fun with it, right? Have an idea around where we want to be and what we want to do in a very mature way, but also in a fun way. And that's what snarky is. What does snarky mean to you?
I think, well, like, what is the definition of snarky? Because I think it's like a bit of sarcasm, a bit of levity and comedy, and I think all of those things are really imperative for creative purposes. And I think it makes you easier to work with, perhaps. I don't know. Like, you tell me.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. It's not taking ourselves too seriously, but being both self aware and situationally aware enough to understand that big brands, small brands, platforms, media have objectives. They don't always hit them, but we are working towards communicating messaging, storytelling to audiences. And that overall plan hasn't changed, but doing so in a way that's fun. Like, let's have some fun with this. There are a lot of smart, creative people. Let's engage them. Let's figure out what makes them tick. And if we do that and don't take ourselves too seriously in the process, then this will be an overwhelming success. Before we get too deep into a conversation with a great first guest, let's first explain a little bit about what our listeners can expect. So we'll do a little bit of witty banter in the beginning because that's what you're supposed to do in podcasts, right? But then we're going to have a few minutes of conversation around topics du jour in the marketing space. What's exciting, what's overrated, what's boring, what is catastrophic, what is, like all those types of things. We're going to call it the seen and the heard. And seen is both a double entendre because it's things we're seeing, but also, we're out and about. We're talking with people, we're hearing things, we're engaging with people. So we're going to do that for a few minutes typically.
You mean like Pride Month?
Sure, exactly. Exactly right. And then, well, why don't we get into it?
We call this the seen and the heard.
We are a week or two into Pride Month, one of my favorite periods of focus for creative marketers because we're talking to an incredible audience. We're celebrating something that's bigger than all of us, but it's not without increasing spotlight challenges and missteps for brands.
There's also a lot of chatter about, we're happy that someone established a month to celebrate these certain, groupings or scenarios or whatever it is, but like it almost feels like it's limiting it to a month. And I wonder, like, I've been reading a lot about people saying that, and I kind of agree with that in a way. Like, it's just, do we need months?
I think so. I think at least for now, it's important that we make the effort. We go above and beyond to ensure representation and visibility and equality of access and equality of opportunity. That's our obligation as marketers. I will continue to be a proponent for those types of months. It's not just for Pride, it's for all types of months. We see Black History Month, and it was just Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and there's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Like, all these are important until they are so ingrained and entrenched and mainstream that we're just speaking to these audiences and celebrating these opportunities all the time, not just for a month. But for now, yes, let's keep these months. But it's also an opportunity for us to poke fun at those who don't do it well or call out those who are not doing it right.
Ugh. Or feel terribly bad for them, because I mean, let's not even talk about Anheuser-Busch, but I mean, that is just a, a domino or snowball.
They ended up alienating everyone by first doing something right that pissed off people, frankly, that I think we should be pissing off, or maybe more proactively educating. But then they reversed course and pissed off the people who are advocating for goodness and equality and positivity.
That's what feels ugly. That feels ugly.
So,
Yeah.
look, we still have a few more weeks before The month is out. Hopefully we see some great positive celebrations, some creative marketing.
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, it's true.
So let's please meet our first guest, Jason Schulweis. Hey, Valerie, how do you know Jason?
From you, like at either Cannes or South by South, I think it might have been South by Southwest. We had a very fun dinner with some clients that we had join. And I honestly thought that he was potentially the kindest person I had ever met. Genuinely lovely human being. And as you say, with a great head of hair.
He does have a great head of hair, doesn't he? So let's get to it. Jason Schulweis is the Chief Revenue Officer for mindbodygreen, but he has an extensive, impressive background and in and across our industry. I mean, if you look at his LinkedIn profile, the logos are like a NASCAR logo soup of incredible brands, from iHeart to MediaLink, which we'll talk about, to Morning Brew. I mean, this guy has really grown and has such an impressive pedigree and is going to do great things at mindbodygreen. So let's talk to him.
And now for the main event. Someone who actually knows what they're talking about. This week, we're talking with mindbodygreen's Chief Revenue Officer, Jason Schulweis.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome, Jason.
Jason.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Val. I'm so excited to be here, too.
Now, you may or may not know this, but you are the first guest in the history of the Snarketing podcast.
Woohoo!
I am deeply honored, and I recognize the distinct, just the privilege of being number one.
No pressure. You might also be our last.
Fair.
So no pressure. But no, we are excited to have you. And I think this is also just a great period in Snarketing history because you are in a relatively recently new filled role, as am I. So I would love for you to tell all of our listener. No, I want him to be able to promote himself first and foremost. And we pronounce your name. We've only known each other for a long period of time, but as one German to another, do you pronounce your name Schulweis?
Only sometimes. Most of the time, it's just Schulweis.
Oh, okay. Is that so? Were you misleading in your interviews with the mindbodygreen executive team, or were you upfront with them about how to pronounce your name?
I was pretty upfront with them. I thought that was an important thing.
Okay, good. Well, they hired you. So
Yes.
Can you tell our listener what, because I think we only probably have one for this first one, and it's my mom. So hi, Mom. Can you tell us what mindbodygreen is, if we're not familiar, even though Valerie and I are? And what do you actually do there?
Like, are you like a number 2 to Goop? Are you number 45 to Goop? Where are we here?
We're number one in everyone's hearts, Val. And so mindbodygreen is a well-being brand, and it's really, since we are in a snarketing podcast, I'll use some marketing snarketing lingo. We operate at the intersection of content, commerce, and education, but all as it pertains to well-being. General philosophy is like a holistic sort of approach, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, everything that goes into well-being, and that's actually why mindbodygreen is one word and not 3.
So intersection. I feel like a lot of people work in intersections, which feels very
100%, totally.
Everyone's at the intersection of something.
Yes.
We should have probably added intersection to the title of our podcast.
That would have been smart, because there's a lot of collisions that we're either happening or trying to avoid. That is basically what marketing is, right?
Well, allow me to differentiate my intersection.
Good. This sounds interesting.
So of the 3 things, like from a content perspective, we actually have an expert collective of well-being practitioners and everyone who is like very actively participating in the well-being space to make people's lives better. They help write our content, they inform our content. On the commerce side, it's not just an affiliate thing, though we do affiliate. We sell actually a lot of CPG products, primarily supplements and personal care. And that is a thriving business for us. And then on an education side, we do health coaching certification. And we have a lot of classes. So if you would like to, learn very directly from someone who can teach you mindfulness or yoga or really anything under the well-being sun, you can learn that or get certified directly from us. And so I think those three things are uniques and pretty compelling as it pertains to why we view mindbodygreen as another snarketing term, a category of one.
So mindbodygreen has content, products you sell, and services you sell.
Mm-hmm.
As a marketer, why are you overcomplicating that? Shouldn't you just pick one thing? Or do you really feel like they go together and complement each other well?
I think they go together and complement each other extremely well. And the way that they do that, it's like it comes down to, I would say, expertise and credibility in the space. It's a lot of companies can do one of those three, but not very many, if at all. Like other than us, like no one can really do all three of those things. And so if you're a brand that is looking to partner with us and from like a credibility, authenticity, expertise perspective, like you come to us. It's not necessarily just about like scale or efficiency or any of those sorts of things. It's very much about like the domain authority that we have. And I think that's a very compelling thing especially in this day and age, about there are a lot of places you can go to get scale and reach and all of those things, but you can't buy the things that we have.
So scale, reach, these are like objectives. When you're hired for a role like this, that is still somewhat being defined as you are several now weeks, months into the role, are there KPIs that are set out for you at the outset? Do you just kind of all agree that buzzwords are going to drive what you do? Or are there actual numbers behind it? Like reach! Yes. Agreed.
The simple answer is that I was hired to grow revenue. grow I grow ad sales and grow ad sales revenue, and then ultimately the different things underneath that. I have laid out alongside leadership like different sorts of KPIs and milestones and different leading indicators that I've identified as things that are more immediately noticeable than like quota attainment and revenue increases, because obviously, as you both know, that it takes time and effort and more time to like build the right relationships and market and get your product set and make sure you're having the right meetings and the right outreach and the right deals in your pipeline, all those sorts of things, to ultimately manifest in ad sales growth.
So I'm going to be like less snarky right now, but maybe it will turn into that naturally. But I just, your whole brand pitch, like, which essentially was your explanation of where you work, is so like on point right now, because like the amount of like weight loss pills I get pushed on social media, or like this will make your hair grow, or like I love this. So my point is that I think it's just such a complicated space to have all of those options. And then like if you're really even going a step further and really interested in it, like you can sign up and be an expert, so to speak, at some point. So I love it.
Yeah, and
I love it.
It's also from like what's it called? Like a zeitgeisty kind of moment too, because especially over the last few years, the idea of health and well-being has also become much more like ubiquitous in conversation from a consumer perspective, but also I think a marketing perspective.
You're very clearly qualified to do what you do. How did you get here? Not physically, by car or vehicle, but what was the path that you took that landed you at the intersection of mind, body, and green?
So there are two answers that I'll give you. The first is more of a non-answer, but I'll just kind of start with that. Is that I do believe that actually like every professional experience has led me to this moment. In more recent memory, after I left Morning Brew at the end of October, I was doing some consulting for about 5 months, and one of my consulting clients was mindbodygreen, and a lot of the work that we were doing was actually with the sales and the revenue org, and it became like a very natural conversation and fit from there.
So now that you are up and running,
yes,
and you've got these revenue targets, you've got a feel for what's working and what's not, what are some of the secrets that you can share that you have learned about whether it's sharing with other marketers or just telling me how to do my job? What is it that you find to be working as successful, and what are you going to be running away from now that you have some stuff figured out?
The biggest unlock from the things that have been working are directly tied to the past experiences that I've had. And so because the current job is a function of the time that I spent at Morning Brew and a little bit of the consulting work, I did feel like extra prepared and qualified to do the things that I am doing. There was a large piece to when I was at Morning Brew. There were a lot of things that I was doing there for the first time. There are significantly fewer things that I'm doing now for the first time. And so
for Matt's mom, how many people, when you started at Morning Brew, how many people were there?
15.
Right.
And there were over 300 when I left.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's a lot of brewing.
It was a lot of brewing.
Now you're taking calm instead.
Exactly. That's also a big unlock. So anyway, the idea of going in and really knowing what to do next, what to do after that, how long those things take, who needs to be involved, kind of just being able to lay out a strategy. And now even looking back, a lot of the things that I said we would do effectively in the first month, we've done in the first month. A lot of the things that I said, if we start doing now, we'll see, indications that it's working after so many weeks. A lot of that stuff is all happening. And so I think with that confidence and experience, you can then effectively say, trust the process because you've done the process before. And while every job and company is going to be different, I think there are definitely a lot of similarities. Especially within ad and media or content sales organization.
Well, so you are a marketer, you are a growth hacker. We love charts, we love graphs. That's what we do. Everything is we have to visualize data. I'm going to give you a pie. Well, I'm giving Jason a pie, okay? Can we all envision this pie? How much of your pie, which is actually a chart, is focusing efforts on brand building, and how much of it is on performance marketing?
Well, from a sales perspective, I am not in charge of mindbodygreen's marketing to consumers. I am in charge of marketing mindbodygreen to marketers.
Okay. So there's a B2B component to this.
Well, that is very often inside of sales organizations. That's the budget that Val taps into to rent yachts on yachts in Cannes. That's that team's B2B marketing budget, because there are marketers that like to go on yachts, Matt.
I like to go on yachts.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know who pays for them, I'll be honest. I go on them, and I'm grateful for your hospitality.
You're very good at speaking on panels on yachts, too. But anyway.
I like to rock the boat. That's what I do. Okay, so let's pivot and change gears a little bit because you've worn many hats. Your history as a professional is like a who's who of impressive logos, even ones that I recognize.
That was my goal, by the way, when I set out. I couldn't have actually cared what I was doing. It was
your personal Jason Creds deck has some really impressive logos on it, and I think that's what sells.
Thanks,
clearly,
man.
you know how to market yourself, if nothing else.
Starting with a school.
Well, yeah, go blue. What would you be doing if you were not doing this?
Would I have to make money?
I think we all have to make money. We all have to make money at some point, right?
True. Well, I mean, what I would be doing and what I would be doing just like philosophically versus, if there was like actually a job pivot. I think
you don't have a trust fund.
All right, there are 3 levels of the things that I would do. Like if I could do like the full just like dad life, all in. Next.
Okay, so full-time stay-at-home dad is your dream job.
Yeah.
Mr. Mom.
Just wait till you have your second child.
Well, that's we'll talk again in a couple months after number 2 comes, and we'll see where my answers are.
Right, when we have 5 new audience.
Also, my marketing advice to you is don't call your second child number 2, because you don't want to have a number 2 coming. Just helpful there.
The other thing that I would love to do, but unfortunately it is not a huge moneymaker, is teach. But if I had to like pivot and didn't necessarily have
I bet you Scott Galloway's making good money.
Yeah, but I also, that's not from teaching though. No, like you have to have, fair point. You have to have like a huge personality and desire to just be like incessantly creating content.
Yeah, that's
I don't
work.
know that I would want to do that.
No, that's exhausting.
But I think if I were to
like, Matt.
Yes, I think if I were to like, pivot and do something else, like there is definitely like an entrepreneurial something that I would have, and I think I don't know, the kid, like something with like kids' toys.
You want to be Josh Baskin from Big?
Kind of.
Right? Wasn't that his job? Was to like come up with toys, make toy ideas?
Ah, that's so cool.
Anyway, yeah, I just think like that would be super cool because it's like and especially with having a kid, it's amazing. You can see them like playing and learning and having the time of their life. Like that's, I don't know, it's something very like pure.
Well, I think there's something interesting there. You clearly have tapped into this idea of educating. But also with kids, I don't know that you'll be able to do both or either of those immediately, but in your current role or in previous roles, have you found that education and thought leadership is an area that you lean into naturally or something you have to work at?
Ooh, wow.
That was an amazing segue too.
Yeah, that was really smooth.
It's only going to get better from here, guys.
Yes, it is important. It's kind of like a yes and. It is important, like, period. But it is also it's important for a lot of reasons. Like it's important because, especially like in the era of LinkedIn and Twitter and all of the things, like it is important to be seen as a thought leader. Yeah, it is important to like do thought leadership because I think it actually makes you better at like communicating and articulating the things that you need to and want to say, because it's it's like reps, you get at bats.
Completely.
And it's important because similar from like a B2B marketing perspective, like yes, you may have an agency that's helping you, you may have budget, you may have a PR firm, but at the end of the day, it's like very important for you to use all of like the tools at your disposal to get the message out there in front of, brands and agencies that you want to, ultimately come in and buy from you.
Is there a play? I mean, look, you've worked at agency, you've worked at publisher, you've worked at brand. I think you're playing marketing tic-tac-toe or bingo at this point. But is there a specific type of company where that opportunity is greater? Or is it that because you're at a publisher, you're educating agencies, and because you're at an agency, you're educating brand? Like, is it just a matter of understanding who your audience is at that point?
Yes.
Okay, very insightful.
It really is, because all of those people exist like on LinkedIn.
Are there specific trends or opportunities or things that, I don't know, I mean, there are things that excite us, but that's very rare and few and far between at this point. We're mature enough to not get distracted by the bright, shiny objects.
Or jaded.
Yeah, well, so what are you most lukewarm about? Can we say that? Like, you don't have to be hot into something, but like, what are you feeling lukewarm into these days?
You want some like hot, or I guess lukewarm takes?
Yeah. So not hot and not cold.
The thing that I'm like lukewarm or meh about is retail media.
Bold statement.
I know it's a bold statement. I respect it. I have a lot of friends that work in it. I understand the full funnel closed loop attribution model for now. But I think it is like very hyped in the way that it is like so transactional and bottom funnel focused. So part of what I'm saying is like it's sometimes like can be, frustrating from a publisher's perspective when you don't operate in that space and everyone's like rushing towards something.
Don't you think it's just a land grab from these retailers who are just trying to figure out new ways to monetize things? I mean, I just feel like that's
it's smart it's smart from their perspective, because I think it's working. I think they're getting a lot more money.
Exactly.
All of their revenue projections are like really, really high. But I think very similarly with like what happened with, a lot of D2C brands over the last, call it 5 years, is they all flocked to a very small subset of, vendors or publishers or software places, and prices started to skyrocket, because if everyone is doing the same thing, it's like no longer as effective or differentiated.
Right.
And it's like you get into that like, race to the bottom, mentality and methodology. That's like not necessarily something that like I have any desire to do.
Well, it's that, and think about those brands that are if there's, in-store placements, and so they're paying for these placements, and then like, these retailers are like, but we want more money, so why don't you go to our retail media network and pay us more? And it's just
and we can tell you if and when someone buys exactly what you're advertising.
Everything.
So it's like I get why it's happening.
Completely.
But
you're right. How effective for how long, right?
Right.
And
it's
do
like
they have enough impressions?
Right. Like, I don't know if, I think it's like, it's one of those things where people think it's working really well because you can see immediate results. But I think it's just telling people what is kind of like already happening. It's not moving the needle in terms of like people actually giving more of a shit about your brand.
Okay. So that's why you're lukewarm about it. That makes sense. It's working now. It may not work long term. I was strategically thinking about, as marketers, like so many people that I would think are creative are fixated on the output and not necessarily on the actual outcome. And as we drive, I mean, it's our goal collectively, no matter whether we're representing the brand or we are the brand, but we're trying to build those connections. Right? So is the quick fix really building a connection? Maybe. maybe for, there's a reason why people buy gum at the checkout counter,
Yeah.
right? Because it's very transactional and it doesn't require a lot of thought. But the consideration phase of marketing should be considered at the very least.
I agree.
Agreed.
I think it's also very helpful when you're able to reach people and also educate people about like the effects, the positive health effects of gum, or whatever else might be. There are a lot of opportunities more up funnel.
And Mind Body Green does not sell gum, just to be clear, right?
Yet.
Oh. Chew to improve. That could be. There you go. I'll give you that idea for free. Enjoy it.
New year, chew you.
Yes, exactly. It's what D2C really stands for. Direct to chew.
I like that.
But creativity is an important part of your job, whether you're responsible for it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the actual visual or messaging,
mm-hmm.
or the ways in which you reach your audience. Are there people, brands, creators, competitors that you look at and you're like, huh, that's pretty cool? Like, who inspires you? Is there anyone you're stealing ideas from or taking little bits and pieces from?
I have the saying, and I don't own the saying, which I feel like is like a very meta use case for exactly what we're talking about. That in order to connect dots, you have to collect dots. And so you have to. I get inspiration from like literally everywhere. I'm a very big believer in like doing random things, having as many conversations as possible, meeting as many people as possible. I do very well when I have a lot of inputs. And I can just trust my brain to start to figure out what to do with all of it. That has served me very, very well. And so, that's kind of like my baseline. And then when there are very specific things that I want to like learn and be inspired by, like I go out and find, specific things. When, I wanted to learn more about, better or not even better, but like get different inputs for like people management. Me and a couple of the leadership team at Morning Brew, we read Powerful by Patty McCord. Now she was the head of HR at Netflix and is the co-author of the very famous culture deck that exists on the interwebs. They have a very extreme view about culture and like learning and development, which was very interesting for me to hear, because I would think I was more on the almost like polar opposite end than I thought. And so I realized that in order for me to be maybe like a better manager or better leader or better delegator, like there were probably some things in there that were very helpful for me to start working towards. I wasn't going to change my personality, but there were definitely some things that I needed to be better about.
See, that is a very disappointing answer, because I thought the real answer was going to be that you're on some like secret MediaLink alumni newsletter and they just tell you what to do, say, and think. Are you saying that is not a real thing?
I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of that.
Wow. Okay. So you heard it here first. There may or may not be a secret MediaLink alumni. How long were you at MediaLink?
Just under 2.5 years.
So there's a lot of content that I see that comes out of thought leadership expertise, whether it's from the MediaLink Alumni Network or more broadly, just the marketing elite. Sometimes I see content, though, and it's like atrocious, and it has like thousands of likes. What do you see that makes you facepalm when people create content on LinkedIn? That's just
I will get to that. I will start by saying that some people don't like the person, like some of the like the personal side of that has kind of like ramped up a little bit. I dig that within reason. The stuff that I think is beyond facepalm is when you see people say like, like I stepped on an ant today and it made me think for a really long time about how this applies to like my recent, YC internship. And here's what I learned about investing in, multi-billion-dollar SaaS companies.
Can't AI replace all that, though?
I hope so. I don't know.
So that is one of the positive outcomes that we should be expecting to see from AI.
But it's funny because some of those have now been like very successfully like parodied in the shit poster world. And it's very funny if it's done in parody and it's very clear that it is, but there is a weird blurry line where some people are serious about it and other people like don't know that someone who's shitposting is shitposting. So I don't know. The internet is a funny place.
Yeah, I was gonna say quantitative data isn't always the primary factor, or should not be the only factor at the very least, when evaluating content. And
I actually am friends with you both, and I think it's partially because of the way that you post on social media.
That's the only reason, or just one of the reasons?
Well, and when I met you, you guys made me laugh. So, but no, seriously, like I maintain my friendship with you because of the way in which you post on LinkedIn, which does not offend me ever, never once.
Well, remember, it's not just snark; it's snarkiting. So we just need to really
a very important
make sure
distinction.
that's clear. Well, there's still time, guys. We have 60 seconds, and it's on Jason now to send us off with a segment that we call Gone in 60 Seconds. So I'm going to put 60 seconds on the fake imaginary clock, but if you are counting at home on your phone or on whatever time measurement device you have,
I hope we get C Indeed by Nicolas Cage.
That would be awesome.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, he may need the money, so we shouldn't really joke about it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to line up 6 questions in 60 seconds, rapid fire style, and then we will be gone. So let us just say before we end with you, Jason, thank you for being our guinea pig. Thank you for being our first. You never forget your first time.
Oh.
And we will never forget you, Jason.
This is Gone in 60 Seconds.
Okay, let's move on to Gone in 60 Seconds. Here we go, 60 seconds on the clock. First question is, what was the last thing that you stole?
Your heart.
Great. Had a feeling you were going to say that. Number 2, your least favorite marketing industry acronym.
DSP.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, great. DSPs. Third question, your favorite University of Michigan football player of all time.
Mike Hart.
Running back. Great. Question number 4, mind or body?
Or green.
Question number 5, what is your favorite thing that is actually the color green?
My wife's eyes.
No.
And question number 6, are you seriously considering naming your second child after Michael Casson?
Again, I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right, that is a half answer, but we thank you, Jason. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Good luck in your new role. I hope that the intersection of mind, body, and green is a smashing success.
Thanks for tuning into our first episode. Matt and Valerie are already off to their next meetings, but let us know what you thought, and if you know a great snarky marketer to be on a future episode. See you next time on the Snarketing Podcast.